Hi, Liz. I'm Jules. Thank you so much for speaking to us. I have one question. You mentioned your morning routine includes one chapter from your favorite writing book. What book is that?
It's called Writing Down the Bones. Do you know it?
No.
So the writer is also a Buddhist, and it's about 67 short chapters that weave in Zen with also really good writing advice. And I just find that when I read other stuff to try to focus for the day, I felt so much pressure under the weight of all these great authors who had come before me. But there's something about the very kind of like chill, frankly, nature of Buddhism that's like, you got this, you're fine. Also, it's sort of like, if you don't write very well today, that's okay too. Are you a writer?
Hello, I'm Ricardo. I actually just wanted to ask you, because I struggle a lot with focusing. I have a lot of things that I feel like I'm very good at, and a lot of things that I just don't do because I get overwhelmed by choice and sticking with a certain thing. I'm sure that comes up a lot with you, and I was just curious if you have anything that you do to make yourself feel more grounded and focused in that sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Maybe I'll ask you first, because I don't want to repeat anything that you're already doing, but what have you tried?
Everything from like learning to sew, embroidery, drawing, singing, filmmaking, photography. And the thing is, and this, I'm not trying to sound full of myself. I'm just good at a lot of things, right? I went to Waldorf schools. Like, art is just a part of my life, and I don't know how to like focus on that one thing, so that I want to be able to incorporate it all, but at the same time, I know I can't do it all. So that's something that's really tough for me.
Yeah. Before I do what I do now, then I worked at a financial firm, right? And I really love business. I truly do. I work with, that's what I do now. I'm an executive coach. But I also deeply love my spiritual practice. And it felt like I was always choosing between the two. And like, I wanted to learn everything about investing. And I also wanted to learn everything about my spiritual path. And I think that there's a false dichotomy in life that we have to choose between the sides of ourselves. And so I would say that, I think what I'm hearing you say is that like your zone of genius, which is defined as the work that not only are you really great at, but also gives you a lot of energy, that's where you want to be. And so I would maybe even pull off the pressure of needing to say I need to choose just one thing to do and one thing to focus on, but thinking about like what mixture of things actually creates Ricardo's own specific, unique zone of genius. And there's a book I love that I read over and over again called The Big Leap, and I think it'll really help you narrow down, because clearly there's a lot of things that you're good at, but then there's also that additional layer of what gives you the most energy to follow.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. It's The Big Leap?
The Big Leap, yes.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Liz. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Anna. Thank you so much for this talk. My question to you is, for those of us that feel change physically in our bodies, whether it be anxiety or racing heart or, other thoughts that come up with the discomfort of change, what do you recommend in terms of habits or tools or techniques to calm down the physical body?
Yes, it's so true, because essentially we're all energetic beings, right? And the energy of change it's activating, it's vibrational, right? And so there are 3 things that I prescribe for that as an agility doctor, and it's nature, movement, and rest. And so the time that we can spend, even it's as simple as going to like Prospect Park and like sitting underneath a tree, it is actually like very, very grounding. And there have been studies that show that, like it's called forest bathing, right? And, the Japanese Ministry of Health has officially said like this is a tool for people. And so I think proximity and spending time in nature, like preferably bare feet on the ground, touching with your physical body is very helpful. Movement, however that appeals to you. I think sometimes movement can be even more agitating, like if you take a Barry's boot camp class and people are screaming at you. And so think about things that are very low cortisol, right? Like things that just feel like they're more relaxing. Walking, yoga, all that stuff, but whatever it is that your body's craving. And honestly, sometimes when I'm feeling just very overwhelmed by change, I'll just do like 5 cat-cows in my chair, and like, okay, I feel a little bit better. And then rest, I think that's a big part of it, and that means sleeping. It's when our brains actually process and compost all the information of the change that we've been given, because that's actually what they're always trying to do. They're trying to find the steady through line. We humans have something called a status quo bias, where we actually do want things to be the same, and so our brains are constantly thinking, okay, is this the same as before? Is this different? Do I need to be scared? Do I need to be alert? And so actually getting a full night's rest helps you to do all that subconscious programming and processing of the change that you're experiencing.
Sorry, big pivot over here. Hi, I'm Trevor. What do you do when there's uncertainty about whether or not a choice is an agile or rigid choice? Like, you want to head in a direction, but mentors and people that you love and love you are maybe telling you that that might be a more rigid choice.
Yes, that is a great question. I love that question. Okay, we're gonna go back to this slide. Okay, so when you are not sure of whether the choice is rigid or agile, then you just do these things, right? You just run yourself through this checklist, and anchors comes first because it starts with the letter A, but more importantly, it comes first because we cannot actually see with proper perspective unless we feel really grounded and our nervous systems are settled, right? Because we don't want to be making decisions out of fight or flight. And so first, you just got to calm the nervous system, get those anchors, right? Spend time with the people who care about you. Go to a place that feels safe. I think of anchors as anything that gives you a feeling of safety, security, and stability. So whatever that means to you, just get yourself into that energy first. And then next, think about like, what is actually the bet that you would take on yourself, and how would you bet on yourself? And I ask myself this question of, what would I do if I knew that I could not fail, right? And so that's the bet. That's the question, is like, we don't know the outcome, but what would you do if you knew that you were going to succeed? And then finally, you think, is there any other information I need here? What can I learn? And then this is a big one for me. I think that if between the choices, the one that feels more uncomfortable is probably the right one. Okay, great.